Welcome to Beautiful Thrift Homemaking. I'm Linda. This year we're reading through a vintage cookbook and having a discussion of the recipes. But this cookbook is special in that it also has a storyline. We are in chapter 80, following the life of a newlywed named Bettina. Chapter 80, A Dinner for the Bridal Party. The bridal dinner given for the wedding party by Alice's parents was truly an elaborate affair. As the young people, who knew each other so well and had spent so many merry hours together, glanced across the softly lighted table, a little feeling of shyness and constraint came over them because of the formality of the occasion. Even Alice, usually the ringleader in all their fun, was a little silent. "Shucks," thought boyish Fred. None of this in mine. I'd elope first. Wonder if Harry likes it. Bet he doesn't," Ruth was thinking. "Oh, how lovely, how perfectly lovely. I believe, after all, as a time to remember through all the years." But Fred could not read her thoughts and saw only the particularly happy smile that she gave him. "How do you like the nut cups?" Alice asked. "Bettina made these yellow mum nut cups as a Christmas gift to me and gave them to me now for this dinner. See, they just match the real chrysanthemums. I'm sure I don't know which I like best." The girls exclaimed so heartily over the nut cups that Bettina declared to herself that she would make sets for each of them of different colors and kinds. These of Alice's were really charming. Their wire handles were wound with green malline and tied with a green bow. They were filled with pecans and pink and yellow bonbons, which were grapes covered with colored creams. The place cards were tied with narrow green ribbon to little china slippers, cupids, doves, and hearts. Besides the yellow chrysanthemums, which were the table decorations, there was for each of the girls a corsage bouquet of pink roses, and for each of the men a boutonniere of pink rosebuds in a tin-foil case. Flower pins were tucked in the malline bows of the bouquets as favors for the girls, while scarf pins were favors for the men. When the dinner was over and the guests were passing into the living room for dancing and music, Alice slipped her arm through Bettina's. "The dinner was lovely, wasn't it?" she said. "I did think I was too tired to enjoy it, but my heart is as light as a feather now. I am going to dance all evening till my last guest goes." The menu was as follows: grapefruit cocktail, cream of asparagus soup, croutons, sautéed halibut, potato rosettes, cabbage relish in green pepper cases, peas in timbale cases, celery, hot rolls, currant jelly, vegetable salad, cheese wafers, brick ice cream, individual cakes, coffee, pecans, and bonbons. And we only have the recipes for the grapefruit cocktail, the cream of asparagus soup, and the croutons in this chapter. Now our next chapter is Rehearsing the Ceremony, chapter 81. Alice's wedding day dawned clear and cold, and Bettina realized with a start all that was before her. She had as house guests 2 school friends of Alice's, gay and charming girls who were nevertheless somewhat difficult visitors, as the little bungalow was soon strewn with their belongings, and as they were completely indifferent to such a thing as punctuality. "Suppose Geraldine will be in tomorrow to borrow I read that wrong. Suppose Geraldine will be in to borrow my mirror in a minute," grumbled Bob. "How long will they stay?" "Till tomorrow morning, dear. Hurry, you know we have to rehearse at 10 o'clock. "Ushers and all?" "Of course. You wouldn't know what to do without a rehearsal, would you?" "I suppose not. But what if I can't get away from the office?" "You'll have to, Bob, for Harry's sake. Surely you can manage it for once." Bob went on grumbling about the foolishness of these fancy weddings, until Bettina consoled him with the promise of waffles for breakfast. "And we'll simply have to call Geraldine and Lenore," she said. "They are going to the rehearsal with me, and I must have my morning's work done before we start. You see, I shall have them here for luncheon, and we won't be back till noon." Bettina, with some effort, managed to reach the church with her guests shortly after 10 o'clock. The nervous and excited wedding party stood about in chattering groups, and when summoned, went through their parts with many mistakes and giggles. How can I ever seem beautiful and solemn? How can it ever seem beautiful and solemn, thought Bettina in despair, when we all do it so stupidly? I'm afraid we are going to spoil the wedding. Bettina's recipes in this chapter are for the some of the more of the bridal dinner recipes: the sautéed halibut, the potato rosettes, cabbage relish in green pepper cases, and glazed sweet potatoes also. All right, join me in just a second and we will discuss the recipes and what's going on in the story. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to discuss chapters 80 and 81. So we have a bridal party going on. It's the dinner party for the wedding coming up for Alice and Harry. The party is given by Alice's parents, and it's a very formal event. And this is the event in which, as is custom, at least at the time, the corsages are given to the girls who would be bridesmaids and the matrons of honor. And then the boutonnieres are given to the guys that'll be in the wedding party. And also gifts are given. And the gifts are described as pins, P-I-N-S. And so I wore a pin. The girls were given a flower pin. So I wore a flower pin, so you could maybe picture that. That was their gift for being a part of the wedding. And the gentlemen were given scarf pins. And what was noticed at the table were the nut cups, and that was the focus of this section here. Were little baskets, and they had wire handles with ribbon wound around them and green bows. And then they were apparently yellow to match the chrysanthemums on the table. And then we have the we have Fred and Harry, and we see into their thoughts. Fred is soon to be married. Well, maybe in the next 6 months or so he'll be married, and he is thinking, oh, I don't want this kind of business going on around my wedding. This is just too much. And Harry, the groom, is going, oh, So unfortunately, Fred's fiance is thinking, wow, look at this. All this stuff it's such a memorable time we're having, how impressed Ruth was with all of it. And if only Fred knew that that's what she was thinking, because he's just wanting to run away, right? And then we have the recipes. So let's open up our book to chapter 80 and take a look at the recipes at the dinner party. Grapefruit cocktail is made with grapefruit, powdered sugar, and cherries. And then the cream of asparagus soup is made this way: 4 cups of strained asparagus pulp, 5 cups of milk, 7 tablespoons of butter, 9 tablespoons of flour, 2 teaspoons salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika. Melt the butter, add the flour, salt, and paprika. Mix well, and gradually add the milk and asparagus. Cook until slightly thick, about 2 minutes. Serve hot. So you can see that the beginning of this is just like starting with white sauce, and then you're adding the strained asparagus pulp to it. All right. Now the croutons are served on top of the asparagus soup, I'm sure, and I'll show you how you make those. You have 8 slices of bread and 2 tablespoons of butter. Cut the bread into 1/3 inch cubes. Add the butter melted and salt. Mix well and brown in a moderate oven, stirring occasionally to permit the bread to brown evenly. So I don't know if you knew that you could make your own croutons, but they are very simple to make, as you just saw, or as you just heard. So anytime you have some leftover bread at the end of a loaf that's not being eaten and you're worried about it going bad, you can make croutons for your salad, or you can make them just whenever you want to. All right. So rehearsing the ceremony is chapter 81. 10 a.m. rehearsal. Of course, Alice and Bob are concerned about getting there on time. Bob has to leave work for it. And Alice assures him that his presence is required and he must leave work and come to the rehearsal. They're also hosting a couple of young girls who are attending in town to attend the wedding. These young girls are not very neat, and their things are strewn all over, and that's been well noted here. Hopefully when you're a guest with somebody, you are minding keeping your things tidy and not strewing them all over the other person's home. Bob was saying, of course they're going to come and borrow my mirror again, which I thought was funny. I'm wondering if this home is a one-bathroom home, and maybe Bob shaves in his bedroom over a dresser maybe and has a mirror there. I just wonder what the circumstances are that he would have a mirror that the girls would need to borrow. Well, we're not told exactly, but we know that people didn't have as many quantities of the same thing that we have nowadays. I know when you listen to some of the talks about minimalism, one of the first things to do, other than picking up trash and getting rid of it, is to go through and discard of duplicates. So some people will have multiple spatulas in their kitchen and so forth. So the minimalists will say that that's not necessary, and just to get down to one, to pare your things down. So I don't know, they seem to be pared down to one mirror. The recipes are for the sauteed halibut, and that is going to be something that was served at the bridal dinner the night before the rehearsal. 2.5 pounds halibut steak, 1/4 a teaspoon pepper, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1/8 teaspoon onion juice, 4 tablespoons egg yolks, 1 tablespoon water, 1.5 cups of cracker crumbs, 4 tablespoons of fat, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Interesting, because fat and butter are in the same category, aren't they? Mix the pepper, lemon juice, onion juice, salt, butter, egg, and water. Wipe the halibut with a damp cloth and then cut into strips 2.5 by 4 inches. Dip each strip into the above mixture and roll into cracker crumbs. I said roll into, I meant roll in. Roll in cracker crumbs. Place the fat in a frying pan, and when hot, add the halibut. Brown thoroughly on each side and garnish with lemon and parsley. And then we have the potato rosettes. And those are 3 cups of mashed potatoes, 3 tablespoons milk, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, 2 tablespoons butter. Mix the potatoes, milk, salt, paprika, and butter. Beat 1 minute. Place the hot potato mixture in a pastry bag and press rosettes on a flat buttered tin pan 3 inches apart. Set in a moderate oven 20 minutes to brown. Remove from the pan with a spatula. Now that sounds really attractive and somewhat simple and a little bit fancy. I agree. It does seem elegant, like an elegant way to serve your potatoes next to your fish. Then they also have the recipe here for the cabbage relish in the green pepper cases. 12 green peppers, 3 cups of finely chopped cabbage, 3 tablespoons pimento cut fine, and we learned earlier that pimento is a red pepper, a mild red pepper. 1 green pepper cut fine, 2/3 a cup of vinegar, 2 tablespoons of sea sugar, which is light brown sugar, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon mustard, which is probably the dry powder mustard, 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Mix the mustard, oil, salt, sugar, and vinegar. Add the green pepper, pimento, and cabbage. Fill the peppers with this mixture. The peppers are prepared by cutting off the stem end, removing the seeds, and washing thoroughly. All right, now I wonder if the guests will eat the pepper cases, if they'll eat any of the bell pepper or just discard them, considering that they're being used as serving bowls in this case. Glazed sweet potatoes. This one was, let's see. I remember thinking, was this even on the menu for the bridal dinner? And it's not. This is not, because we had the potato rosettes, the cabbage relish, we had peas, vegetable salad. We did not have this on the menu for the dinner party, but here we have a recipe for glazed sweet potatoes, 12 portions, using 6 sweet potatoes, 1 cup of brown sugar, 1/2 a cup of water, and 3 tablespoons of butter. You're going to wash, pare, and boil the sweet potatoes. When tender, drain, cut in lengthwise slices 1/2 inch thick, and lay in a buttered pan. Cover with a syrup made by cooking the brown sugar, water, and butter for 2 minutes. Baste frequently. Bake 20 minutes in a moderate oven. We've seen that a moderate oven is probably 325 to 350. So the glazed sweet potato sounds really good for Thanksgiving, doesn't it? And even those potato rosettes sound like a good thing to add to your Thanksgiving dinner. Although my family would probably complain because they love heaping mashed potatoes onto their plates. And I think that these would be such a controlled small portion that they might be upset about that. But that's it for the recipes that have to do, and then we're gonna move beyond the wedding for Alice and Harry in the next chapter, chapter 82. So we'll see you shortly for the reading of chapters 82 and 83, which will continue with in the month of November. Thanks for being with me.